Good evening, everyone out there, football fans everywhere. Hey, what a heck of a week we got coming up. My favorite weekend of the year, even when we get our ass handed to us quite a bit. Uh, the Florida Georgia weekend. Of course, the Georgia fans love it, the Georgia Florida weekend, and I still will say Florida Georgia for all my life because I'm biased. Hey, great week of football for you Florida fans and you Georgia fans. But hey, what a way to lead into another great, wonderful weekend that we've got coming up. Uh, some good action nationally, and definitely some good action. A few games in the SEC of interest to quite a few people, and we'll cover some of those games. But tonight, our focus in the end is going to definitely be on the Florida Georgia game. Glad to have all of you with us that are here tonight. We've seen some people already in the chat early. CJ, good to see you as always, my friend. Carol Red Sox had stopped by, and we got OC Dobbins here tonight. Hell to you, sir. Great to have you here. And yes, it's a bye week for Bama. Yeah, it's about time. It's a really late bye this year for them, but that's cool. At least you get it. You get it probably at a better time than if you get it in the third week of the season, like some NFL teams have. You play two games, and it's a time for your bye, but yeah, then you got to fight the rest of the season. So just want to say thank you all again. Remember, we've got we got 4 more weeks in the season. Can you believe that, in the regular season? And we've got good guests lined up for each week, but it's just amazing how this time has flown. And it's a very special time to me. And I love this being our anchor show. Of course, we have the Fortnite streams, and hopefully you get to catch some of those from time to time, even in bits and pieces. It's a good thing to watch some of those from a few minutes here and there. There's some good action in it. Maybe one day we'll start clipping some of them. But I encourage you, if you're new to the show and the football show specifically, go back and watch clips from our last 9 episodes. Over the, I guess, 8 episodes, before tonight, and look at all of them. Even if you don't look at the statistical parts or the game results, the predictions and stuff, go back and listen to our special guest, and what they've had to say to, some very fascinating things with their football experiences, family experiences around football, silly events that happen. If you want to get hungry, go watch Mark D with a C's week with the daggum barbecue that came out of everywhere, making us hungry. And if you want statistical overload, look at last week's with Esh Singh and his rolling the dice so many times. Well, the dice god smiled on him, and many of our other guests, which leads me to tonight's introduction of a returning guest, the first returning guest that we have here, the man himself that I love to play Fortnite with, the man that loves to torture people on Twitter with memes aplenty and everything else, who is also a nemesis Georgia Bulldog fan and takes pride in how my kids have all gone over from the Gators to the dark side of Georgia. Let's welcome him. You love this guy secretly, even though he doesn't want to take credit for it. It's That GenX Guy. How are you, sir?
Good.
Hey. And our special guest, too. Hey. You're doing good.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Little guy's a little active tonight, isn't he?
Yeah,
Oh,
he's a little tired.
yeah, I understand. Yeah. Is this usually a hard time of night for him, or is he usually asleep?
Yeah, that's close to his bedtime.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. Hey, Jen, here's the truth here. Melissa said he's upset at hearing about Gators. Oh, that is crazy. Yeah, that could be, I know. I actually had my kids at one time upset at hearing about Georgia Bulldogs or Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets or the Tennessee Volunteers, but hey, they took their own path as they got older, though. But it's all good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, It's all good. Yeah, and yeah, OC LOL. Yeah, I got plenty of stories with my kids, uh, and how they've rebelled so many ways over the year. Hey, but at least if it's a football team, a school, who cares, you know? But hey, how are you doing tonight, sir? How have things been going?
Oh, good. We'll probably have a nice conversation after this.
Oh, well, thank you for being here. Well, we'll try to get you done and out, and
Yeah, that's good.
it's all good. Well, I appreciate you being here, man. Because you
Yeah.
know what, with this week, I've had it marked on the calendar forever. Uh, my kid Ang, has her own Twitch channel, right?
Mm-hmm.
And last year, I was trying to bug him to let's talk Florida Georgia. Let's talk Florida Georgia. You know what? The response I got was,
What's that?
"Go start your own channel." Oh man, so that's awesome. So I did. I have. So anyway, it's good. I love this game. We'll get more into it a little bit later. But how have you enjoyed the football season so far?
It's not too bad. Uh, I've seen. It seems like more and more crappy calls occurring, even
Mhm.
in college ball. But uh, like pro ball, the the rules got to get fixed on those. But football all around has just been all right. Not too bad.
Oh, good, good. Any particular games that you've enjoyed more than others?
But um, Tennessee and
Bama.
yeah,
Yeah,
that was awesome.
that probably was one of the best games I think I've ever watched in my life. I mean, as a neutral observer,
Yeah,
it was so good that when Florida played, got stunk it up against LSU that night, even before the Gators got behind, I was like, I was so spoiled watching both high quality Alabama and Tennessee play. When I watched what the Gators had, it was like, why am I watching this junk? You could tell the quality of football just went downhill between the teams.
yep.
So, which leads to your great team is now still back in the number one spot, and we'll have a lot to talk about memories with Georgia and Florida, as the show goes on. What are some of your thoughts about Georgia? How they've done so far this year? I mean, looking back, because it looks like they've had some games they struggled, some they played good in.
Yeah, they got a strong defense, but yeah, they're definitely not the team they were last year. And which if other teams weren't as like making mistakes like they were,
Mm-hmm.
Georgia wouldn't have been number one. They'd be like number 4 right
Right.
now. But each team is, more or less got new people,
Yeah.
and they're everybody's working out new things on each of their teams, and same with like Bama.
Mm-hmm. I think Saban referred to last year as a down year. It's like, oh my God, if that last year was a down year, then
I don't know
man,
what the hell's this
I'll
year.
I'll take anything like that, especially with my teams. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's cool. That's cool. That's interesting to see. Yeah, it's been interesting looking at it. We can comment when we see the SEC standings a little bit overall. So what? Well, we're about let's say about 10 minutes in. Why don't we go ahead and jump into last week's action so we can get to the good stuff? How's that sound?
Sounds good.
All righty. Well, listen, everything here, our standard disclaimer. We're not a gambling site. We're here for just entertainment purposes, just friends having a conversation, just having fun talking about football. So when we do picks, do say stuff that, I wouldn't rely on my opinions either, because I picked some really, really bad games this year and I missed some games I should have picked upsets on. So just remember, it's all for fun, not overloaded statistically, and just we'll have fun together and enjoy talking some football. All right.
Mm-hmm.
With that, our first game from last week, we'll go into the review of prior week's actions, and started with probably the most important game of the week was Mississippi State at Alabama. Alabama pulled away to a comfortable win, 30-6. Yardage was about even between the teams and time of possession, but you just, Bama's Bama. They can pull 30 points out of their hat. Bryce Young was 21 of 35 passing for 249 yards with 2 touchdowns. The air raid offense from Mike Leach, Will Rogers was 30 of 60 passing for only 231 yards. So, a lot of short passing there with that offense. 30, that's even less than 8 yards of completion there. Will Reichert got back on the kicking streak, 3 of 3 field goals and extra points. Has hit a long of 50-yard field goal in the game. It was interesting that Alabama, known for running, ran for only 29 yards on 27 carries. Really a interesting game. You would think that this game might have been closer score-wise, but it wasn't. And the parts I saw, it really wasn't a close game. What do you think, Jen?
I was just kind of surprised Mississippi State was even able to score.
Yeah.
It seems like one team that I thought it was going to be like 40-something to 0. Because I thought, Bama defeated them pretty well, but I just thought it would be more of a shutout game.
Mm-hmm. Well, they've got something, though. But, Mississippi State's supposed to be a high-scoring offense with their air raid offense, but that just couldn't put it in the end zone against Bama.
Yep.
Often enough. So let me say hi to Wade. Hey, Wade, welcome tonight. So yeah, this last week's games really left a lot to be desired. This is probably the biggest match of all of them, but it's you're going to have those weeks, in any conference and any week nationally, where you just have weeks where the games just don't interest you.
Right.
It just and this, I knew going in if this was a star match, and it's not because of Alabama, because God, if you're an Alabama fan, like O.C. Dobbins out there, you got to love this team and appreciate them every time they play.
Oh, yeah.
But whenever you see Mississippi State, I cringe because they came to town one time for a bowl game, and I definitely refused to buy tickets because I was like, I'm not going to watch that crap. So it's what I was. It's definitely what I was. One of those teams I didn't really care to watch much of. It's like when Kentucky came here years ago. It's like, why am I going to go pay $50 a ticket for that?
Exactly.
So which gets into another topic about bowl games, but that would be something for another day. So. And it looks like we got 8 people watching us now. So remember, if you're on the YouTube side, make sure you like the video and, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you are on Twitch, make sure you follow, and share out the tweets. You can follow us on twitter.com for all the latest events that are going on. But with that, we'll move on to the next game. Okay.
All right.
Which is this was supposed to be a good game, but it
started out decent.
Yeah. I actually will say I was completely surprised when I saw the end results because I saw it early. It looked competitive. Then when I turned it back over, I was like shocked of the lead. 45 to 20 LSU wins at home.
Yeah,
over
Ole Miss just about the half. Ole Miss just said F it.
Yeah, I've heard someone out of Knoxville talking on the radio that about Ole Miss may be softer than expected. This is the second game where they played a better opponent and they struggled. They did not do as well. They've had a soft.
I think some of their guys are hurting, so it slowed them down towards the half.
Yeah. Well, anytime you got that time of possession difference too, that can cause issues with your defense and wear them down too. And look at the difference in first downs, 35 to 24. And Jaden Daniels for LSU was 21 of 28 passing for 248 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also had 23 carries for 121 yards and 3 touchdowns. That is reminiscent of his performance a couple weeks ago at the Gators in Gainesville, where he had 3 touchdown passes and 3 touchdown running. So very impressive effort. Jackson Dart for Ole Miss was 19 of 34 passing for 283 yards and an interception. Kenshawn Judkins for Ole Miss, 25 carries for 111 yards and 2 touchdowns. Malik Keith for Ole Miss had 8 catches for 145 yards. And this is a telltale sign here. It was 20-17 at halftime. Ole Miss with the lead. LSU outscored Ole Miss 28-0 in the second half. That is an amazing. That's amazing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you said. It's somewhere near halftime. It's like the light went off for Ole Miss.
Yeah, like I said, I just think some of their guys were just they got tired too early. You know, maybe they partied the night before or something.
Yeah, it's usually not a good sign when they when you go scoreless in the second half. You know, so lose the lead, get crushed out. Yeah, this okay. That one should be very obvious. So we'll talk about the other two in just a minute. But yeah, but thanks for being there, Wade. You know, I'll tell you honestly, I'm not surprised necessarily that LSU won this game. The margin of victory is what surprised me. Watching them against Tennessee getting blown out at home, and then now to turn around with Ole Miss and really rout Ole Miss. So
yeah,
I think that's probably the largest surprise of the game. All righty. Well, let's move on. Oh man, the battle of the basement.
I mean,
yeah,
it was a close game, but it was still boring.
Yeah, this is how bad it was. Missouri wins 17-14. Missouri turns the ball over 4 times, still wins. Yet Missouri got all their points in the first half, 17. Vandy got a touchdown in the last minute or so with a long pass play, but it took a 3-yard fumble return for a touchdown to get Vanderbilt on the board. So, yeah, I believe you're right. This one, I'm glad I didn't even try to watch it. It was bad. Mike Wright had to come off the bench, the starter at the beginning of the year for Vanderbilt, which is a sign that when you don't have, if you have, like it said, if you have 2 quarterbacks, you don't have a quarterback. And as long as Mike Wright was playing well, they were doing good. And as long as A.J. Swan was playing well, they were doing good. But, you know, anytime you have to go to the bench like that, yeah, it hurts you. Basically, statistically, they were dead even most categories. Brady Cook from Missouri was 17-25 passing, 211 yards with a touchdown and an interception. So, you know, there's not much. There's really not much you could say that this, other than Vanderbilt's probably condemned for a 3rd straight non-winning SEC season. You know.
Yeah.
And the last time they won an SEC game was against Missouri 2 years ago. So I like to say, Wade, at least SEC garbage is better than any West Coast garbage. I don't know. There's some good West Coast stuff if you get the right garbage team. But I do agree with this. Vanderbilt would beat the Colorado Buffaloes any day.
Yeah.
Colorado actually apparently won their first game a week before because of California's like incredible screw ups. So it's just amazing to see. Do you ever watch much of the West Coast football action late at night?
No. Well, also it depends on your provider. What games they air, but for me, they mostly air the SEC games, and but I catch a few here and there because they'll be on the Fox, CBS, etc. And they're all right, but like the networks have no problem like cutting in for different stories and whatnot. So it's the games are not on their priority list of care.
Oh, I got you with that. Yeah, they the last couple of weeks, the end of the baseball season, they kept cutting in for guy for the Yankees for his 61 home runs or something, and I'm like, It's just not good. It's distracting. I'm sitting here wanting to watch football, not baseball. So it's just crazy. But I tell you what, I do like West Coast football though, especially the Oregon State Beavers. My Beavers are doing better this year, so that's they've got some good actions out there. I know. Yeah, Wade. I wouldn't watch the Buffaloes either. I actually saw them play Oregon State last week, and the Beavers looked really good against Colorado and just blew them out 42-9. So, hey, Jen, guess what? I just talked Pac-12 football now. All right. I love talking. I do like talking more than just SEC, though. But, yeah.
You're making you're making headway.
Hey, wait. Hey, absolutely. So, anyway, maybe next year expand the program. But anyway, on that note, let's move on in the interest of time. The closest game, the closest game of teams that really matter. South Carolina held off Texas A&M 30-24, although Texas A&M had more in first downs and more time of possession. Both teams had 2 turnovers. Spencer Rattler was 12 of 25 for 168 yards. It still amazes me how he is not putting up the numbers that he did at Oklahoma. But but I know different school, different situation, and everything else. Haynes King for A&M was 17 of 32 passing for 178 yards, a touchdown, and interception. And you can see the bottom here. They, Xavier Legette had a 100-yard kickoff return for the Gamecocks. So, kind of a decent game. I watched a little bit of it. Did you get to watch anything a little bit better of this game?
I mean, I was flipping through multiple games just to see how each one were, but I didn't fully watch this game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't either. It was kind of a flip around game, but it was. It's hard to watch A&M with their offense these days, but they did score 24 on the road against Carolina, so it's another one of these games that really just, unless you're a fan of either team, just really doesn't hold a lot of interest, unless you have conference or national title implications with it. But it just, and that's going to happen. That's the way it is. Not every game, even though it looks good on paper, it's going to end up being that way. And, sometimes you have to have an interest in it. So,
right.
Yeah, it's sad that even the ACC is better than the Pac-12. Well, I think Pac-12 fans might disagree with you, but I do. Yeah, USC could be overhyped. What happened? I thought Florida was better. No, Florida is quite an interesting team this year. Very Jekyll and Hyde. So
that's a nice way of saying, yeah, I love my team, but they're
they suck. Well, it's like I'll just remind me Jekyll and Hyde when we talk Florida Georgia later, because I'll a lot of my analysis on that is stemmed from a couple different things. So then, and I think this is the last game of the week from last week. UT Martin got out by the Volunteers. Paycheck game, damn, nearly 700 yards of offense by Tennessee. I
can't believe UT was able to score.
Yeah, I mean, well, UT for their division level of football apparently had a decent offense. I remember listening to the Volunteer Network talking about UT Martin's offensive efficiency. So it maybe not surprising. And it probably was a lot of the scoring was in garbage time too.
Yeah,
Hendon Hooker is hot again, 18 of 24, 276 yards and 3 touchdowns. Jalen Hyatt, I'm telling you, when you guys play Tennessee next week, that your secondary, your defense is going to get tested with these two guys, Hooker and Hyatt. Hyatt now had 7 interceptions again in a game, 174 yards and 2 more touchdowns. Last week he caught 5. I mean, it's just amazing with that combination. I had to pick this guy because Squirrel White, I don't think he's a regular player. He had 5 catches for 122 yards and a touchdown.
Look,
What's that?
these are hella names for the Tennessee.
Yeah.
Hendon Hooker,
Yep.
which just sounds hilarious to say. Jalen Hyatt. Yeah, Hyatt just kind of sounds weird. Squirrel White.
Yes.
Like, congratulations, you have a son. What do you name him? Squirrel.
Squirrel. I love it. Hey, look, our volunteer fan out here is even hard on his own team here. Why does Tennessee not do better?
Because it's
Man.
Tennessee.
Yeah, it's Tennessee. But hey, I'll take a 65-24 at any day at the rate my team's going.
They got too arrogant after playing Bama and beating them.
Yeah. Dang it, it's only a 41-point win. But here's another cool stat. 5 Tennessee players, one of them was a wide receiver, I believe. 5 Tennessee players completed a pass. 3 of those throwers completed a touchdown pass. How about that for a damn stat? That's something you don't see very often. You're lucky you get 3 quarterbacks playing a game, and that's how that goes. Have you ever seen a stat like that, though, Jen? I don't know that I can recall that.
No, not that one I can remember.
Yeah. Well, guess what? The comedians are out now. Oh, that was not me. That was Mrs. Dadman. She used my account.
You said the comedians out. Yeah, I was like,
does Squirrel have a sibling named Chipmunk? That is awesome. Oh, that's too funny. That was a good one. Oh my gosh. So anything else with this game? I mean, this one is, all the other games really didn't have much to say, but this one's been fun because of the name Squirrel, the 5 players completing pass. This one had some interesting things with it.
I want Squirrel White to have a successful NFL career because I want to hear that name get said all the time.
Yep, that would be awesome. Squirrel White. Squirrel White. So let's see where we stand with the SEC at the end of the 9th week. Excuse me, the 8th week. In the East, there's no change. We still have Georgia and Tennessee at the top, with both undefeated, heading towards the matchup on November 5th in Athens. We've got Carolina and Kentucky in the middle of the pack in the East, both at 5-2, with Florida and Missouri tied behind that, and then Vanderbilt in the bottom once again. And again, Vanderbilt has not won a conference game in 2 years. And that a lot of people predicted that one from Missouri, that would be the win. But looking at the remaining schedule, but you know what, Jen? I will tell you something negative about my team.
Oh, I could tell you something negative about your team too.
Well, I know you would, but honestly, Florida has to go to Vanderbilt. And for reasons I'm going to touch about in a little bit, Vanderbilt's not the normal Vanderbilt per se. And with the way Florida has shown inconsistency, Vanderbilt could beat Florida this year.
Yeah.
Especially being up there. It could be. If the stars align and everything, it could be. And boy, I'll get in trouble with family then because I'm sick of being told I have to be patient and all.
They'll be watching. They'll be like, "Yeah, you wait till Thanksgiving, Dad, man."
Yeah, I know. It's like when Georgia replaced coaches, don't see Kirby Smart having a meltdown year like the Gators are having in his first year. I mean, it wasn't the best, but second year he's going, and you look at what's happening in Knoxville. I mean, you get a solid coach, and that's and that's what it comes down to. Why not a shark last name again? Oh yeah, that would be cool. Oh hey Jen, here you go. The Mrs. Heisman Trophy winner, Squirrel White.
I would push aside every great player that's in line, especially this year for the Heisman Trophy, just so I can see a trophy that says Squirrel White.
Oh man, and he deserves it. He's so much better.
Squirrel White. I gotta look at that dude's family. I'm sure there's an article about it.
That's I'd never heard of him. That's why I think he's got to be a bench player, though.
How did I not hear that all season yet?
Because I think he's a bench player, but they had so many.
Because you don't want you don't want Squirrel White out there. Sounds like a rapper name.
We'll bring him to Gainesville. We need it. Wade, the reason why, on the left are the conference game records. So Tennessee is 3 wins, no losses in SEC conference matchups. They've only played but they're 7-0. So that's but it'll all even out in the end of the season. Everybody will play the same number of games. It'll work out. So Florida would lose to Vandy. I could. It's
possible.
Anything's possible this year with that Florida team, I will tell you. Hey, the small time Republic, hail to you, sir. Our Auburn fan. He drove through Gainesville for the first time today. Hopefully not at rush hour. For a little dinky town, that's got the worst possible traffic that you could ever find. So it's crazy. I'm telling you, that is a crazy place. But hey, I've been there before. Jen, you've been through Gainesville too, right?
Yeah, passing through and then.
Yeah. So small time. Tell me what you really thought of Gainesville when you have a chance in the chat.
The gas was a little high.
Let's put it this way. I've visited both Gainesville and Athens. Well, of course, look, it's a very tax-heavy county, the university there, and the politics, of course, it's going to be higher there. But I tell you what, I've been both to Athens and to Gainesville, and by far Athens is a much more beautiful city. So it absolutely.
Man.
I'll have to look to. You were 3-2 then, CJ. You were 3-2. You were what I was. So
the legendary UGA football coach Vince Dooley just died.
No way.
Yeah, he's 90.
Wow.
Yeah, I just seen
holy cow.
One of our local news posted the article.
Oh my God.
To be honest, I thought he was already gone. Because you don't hear about these people anymore until you just assume they've passed on.
God.
Yeah.
Wow.
90-year-old. That is a crime.
Wow. I'm sorry. He's not even my team, but I tell you what. Wow. Well, I had to say a few things when we get to that section. God, that's wow. Especially on the eve of the Florida-Georgia game. That's really a sad timing and sad passing there.
Yeah.
I mean, Dog Nation's going to be really upset with that, and they should be. Great ambassador of the game, great representative of the university back in the day when coaches really held themselves with class and honor. I'll share a few things a little bit later when we get into Florida, Georgia. Then, man. Well, thanks for letting me know that, though. That's breaking news, Jen. Yeah. I have to. Oh man, that is something. Wade should stream and buy the NCAA game next year. I might have to get back into some football games. I don't know. We'll see what happens. There was some traffic. Yeah, it's a horrible city to drive around if it gets busy. So, yeah. So
yeah, I was driving in the afternoon, so it was pretty nuts.
Absolutely. So where we we're going to. I'm going to go ahead, since we've shown that, do something a little bit different. We're going to go ahead and talk about the top 25 since we had shown the results from last week. We still have Georgia and Tennessee up in the top 3. Ohio State, Michigan, Clemson, Alabama stay in the same spots. UCLA dropped because of a loss to Oregon. And look at Oregon, 6-1 after that demolishing they took at the beginning of the year to Georgia.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then now the SEC's got 7 teams in the top 25. Ole Miss fell a lot, but LSU is back in the poll. Kentucky didn't change, and South Carolina enters the poll for first time at 5-2. So, it's the conference looks stronger again. But the thing with South Carolina, are they real or are they smoke and mirrors with that? But hey, you win the games that you play, and ugly wins are better than no wins, and your record's what you got. And in the coaches poll, it's still the same at the top with the top 6 teams, 3 SEC teams in the top 6, Georgia, Tennessee, and then Alabama. Overall, 7 in the coaches poll again, 12 Ole Miss, 17 Kentucky, LSU enters at 20, and South Carolina comes in at number 25. So, really interesting to see with the polls this year. The SEC traditionally always has a lot of teams in the poll. You remember some of those years when they've had as many as like 9 teams in the top 25. It's like there were no other conferences there. You remember those times?
Yep.
Yeah. I still can't believe Syracuse is up there at 16th, though.
Yeah, that's pretty. That's pretty amazing. Well, they're down 2, but they're still up there.
Yeah. Any appearance is a big and Mrs. Tulane team is still in the top 25. So. Oh my gosh, that is just too much fun with that. Oh boy. And so that's how everything fell out in the conference this week. The fallout in the polls based on those results. So, any other random thoughts right now, Jen, after we've reviewed last week's action and looked at the polls and the conference standings?
No, man, not. Afraid not.
Okay. Hey, that's okay. I mean, we kind of covered quite a few things in here. Hey, Martina with the C shows up. As if you're worrying about Syracuse.
I won't say that the next time we play, I won't delay a revive, but I might.
Well, I've actually seen Syracuse play a live game before. Back in the days when the ACC championship game was held where we are, they played Virginia Tech. I tell you what, Syracuse. No, I'm sorry, that was Boston College. Sorry, I did see Syracuse play one other time. I did. It was a bowl game when Syracuse came, and they had like 20 members in their band.
Yeah, and
the stadium was definitely half empty there with that. But it's like any team out of the Northeast coming to the South; they don't travel well. We had the one ACC championship game with Boston College. They tried to bribe us. They wanted us to leave the upper deck where our tickets were to move to the bottom deck and pay more to upgrade. You were going to upgrade. I'm like, why would I go from up here where there were like 10 people in the upper deck? Why would I leave that with my own private clean bathroom with my own concession stand to go to sit next to people?
Were they forcing you on to go down?
No, they were trying to get us to bribe us, but we still had to pay. They should have been the type of free upgrade.
Because they wanted to clutter up people for the shots, but they shouldn't demand you to pay for it. They should just offer it to you.
Well, they offered it to us, but we needed to pay for it. And I'm like, why would I pay?
Yeah, no, just let my ticket, work for that seat that you're wanting me to be in.
Exactly. Oh, well, that's an interesting matchup nationally this week. Syracuse and Notre Dame matching up. That could be a good game.
He's going to force me to root for Notre Dame. Crap.
Well, I don't have love for Syracuse because Syracuse beat the crap out of Florida once before, and it was ugly that time. Back in the early 90s, when the ball coach was there. So, but yeah. All right. Well, let's step into this week's action. We're doing really good on time, and we'll bring up this week's action. These games. Boomer.
Major boomer.
Okay. Love you, sweetheart. Mark,
Yeah.
look at Mark here. He's right on it. But anyway, well, our first game of the week is Arkansas at Auburn. Auburn leads in this series 19-11 with 9 ties. 9 ties out of 39 matchups. That is crazy. I wonder how many were under Pat Tie-Dye. Pat Tie-Dye, remember? Pat Dye.
Yeah, I remember.
Well, he was nicknamed Pat Tie because he liked to go out of his way to end up a game in a tie at the end of a game. Like against Syracuse, Mark Syracuse, many years ago in a bowl game. It was the Sugar Bowl, I believe. Down 3, Pat Dye sends a field goal out unit to kick a field goal and tied the game at the end of the, back when ties were a thing.
Yeah.
And they tied Syracuse. So, that's too funny. So it's cool, but it was like he earned that nickname. It was kind of cool. So hopefully this is something good for Small Time Republic now, being our resident Auburn fan here. And largest margin for Auburn of victory is 56-3 back in 2016. The longest streak Auburn has won in the series of winnings is 6 games from 2016 to 2021. The largest margin for the Pigs in victory was 42-17. Their longest winning streak in the series was 2 games back in 1998 to 99. Auburn has won 8 of the last 9 matchups, and currently Auburn is on a 6-game winning streak in the series. Yeah, the first game in this series, I got to watch. My notes are not too good sometimes. You know why?
Yeah.
Because normally 84 means 1984.
Yeah.
But I've been learning lately, some of these series start back in 1894, it's 1884. But this first game was December 27th of 1984. The 2 teams met in the Liberty Bowl, where Auburn emerged with a 21-15 victory. This year, Arkansas is 4-3 on the season with wins over Cincinnati, South Carolina, Missouri State, and BYU, with losses against Texas A&M, Alabama, and Mississippi State. Basically, Arkansas lost all 3 games against the projected top 3 in the West. So it's crazy how that. Oh my God! We got a little comedy on the chat here.
I don't know what's conversation. What in the hell?
Oh, it just a little distraction out there. Any cookie is better than no cookie.
Yeah, wrong. Oatmeal raisin.
Oh, dude, I'm with you there. Oatmeal raisin, absolutely.
No, it is the pineapple on pizza of cookies.
Oh man, I love oatmeal raisins. They're awesome. Well, let's go to. Go ahead.
No, it wasn't football related. It was just a dumb.
Well, to our friend, Small Town Republic there, Auburn is 3-4 with wins over Mercer, San Jose State, and Missouri, but losses to Penn State, LSU, Georgia, and Ole Miss. Your any thoughts or comments on this matchup? At least just from the general standpoint. We won't make our picks now, but just any thoughts on this game based on what you've seen with these 2 teams?
No, I mean, yeah, I mean, the game should be an okay game starting out, but no, we'll see. Cause yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good. I mean, there's a lot of history there, and I tell you, you never know with what happens. Auburn had a good week last week offensively against Ole Miss. Maybe, I don't know, maybe they can get some magic back at home against Arkansas this week,
Yeah.
They get Tank Bigsby back on track, finally running the football again, and that's been a big problem. He's not been able to bust loose and the running game be what it historically is for Auburn. The backup, the quarterback that's taken over, Ashford, still completion wise is not very good, but he is showing the ability to hit some big passes. So, and I had hopes for Arkansas this season, but Arkansas let me down. I mean, like I said, they lost to the 3 leading teams in the West. You can't do that and expect to be competitive, and there were a lot of people hoping for that, and they had Alabama at home this year. So, it's like they may have missed their shot. Well, with that, let's move on to Missouri and South Carolina, which is basically, I don't have anything for this one. If you don't have anything, we can keep moving on.
Nope.
I just do not, Missouri. Oh man, painful team to watch. And I hate when the Gators play them because I almost, I don't ever want to watch Florida play Missouri because it's like worse than watching paint dry. Even when Florida's good, they still struggle with Missouri. I don't know why, but it's what it is. So anyway, to my Tennessee fans out here, I know there's 2 at least. There's Wade and there's she's geeky out there that listen later probably. But Tennessee, this is our week. I tell you what, number 19 Kentucky is at number 3 Tennessee up in Neyland Stadium in Knoxville. This is a game that I know the Tennessee fans are looking forward to because, as I've heard on the radio up there, apparently the people in Kentucky have been talking trash all this year and really want Tennessee this year, thinking that they could knock them off. So, yeah, exactly. Hey, do you know how lopsided this series is, Jen?
Yeah, it's pretty.
Well,
lopsided.
Tennessee leads overall series 82-26-9. Yeah. Tennessee's largest margin has been victory was 52-0 back in 1994. Tennessee's longest winning streak in the series has been 26 games. Let me stop real quick, because I'm going to say this let's see. Auburn's not going to win another conference game this year. Hate to be a pessimist, but we've got players quitting left and right. Yeah, that's definitely a problem with your team when the players quit. And one story, and I don't mind stopping it here right now with that, because one story that I read this week reported the coach was already on the hot seat, and I can't ever remember his name, but he was on the hot seat after the end of last year. But there's some talk that they're not allowing players to do non-medical red shirts. If they ask for a non-medical red shirt, they're basically telling them quit the team or whatever. They're not letting them sit out a year.
Yeah.
So it sounds like there's a lot of problems over there in the Plains, off the field too. And, it's always bad for a fan base to have to deal with that, especially, a fan base like Auburn. You just want to win and you want to have a good year and enjoy your football.
Yeah.
But when that off the field stuff starts taking over, it's miserable. Like in Gainesville last year, it spirals out of control and then nobody has fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I said how lopsided it is. Okay. Let's see. Small Town Republic has a Kentucky friend who's confident about tomorrow. I told him to calm down. I agree with you. Small Town Republic. For many reasons, I think we're going to get into it in just a second. There, of course, leave it to Mrs. the light team colors. That's okay. Pick it how you want it. So, but in this series, Tennessee's longest winning streak was 26 games from 1985 to 2010. Kentucky's largest margin of victory was 56-0 in 1893. So how about that? Like I told you, it gets old. Hi back, Carol.
Hi back. What?
Oh, she returned. She was in the chat earlier.
What have you been drinking?
I don't know. I just make up English as I go along. That's why nobody's given me a mic before. I had to take my own mic and take control.
Speaking, she makes up English as she goes along too.
Oh, it's all good. Y'all end up understanding what I'm saying, or at least y'all getting up bullshitting it. So. Well, Kentucky's longest winning streak was 4 games back in the good old years of 1909 to 1912. Tennessee has won 8 of the last 10 games. The first matchup between the two schools, Kentucky won 56-0 back in Knoxville on October 21st, 1893. So maybe your friend, Small Town Republic, was thinking about it's 1893 again. I don't know, but yeah, Kentucky's 5-2 overall, but they've had wins over Miami of Ohio, Florida, Youngstown State, Northern Illinois, and Mississippi State, but losses at Ole Miss and at home to South Carolina. Obviously, Tennessee's 7-0 with wins over Ball State, Pitt, Akron, Florida, LSU, Alabama, UT Martin. And that's back to the 3-0 there, Wade. Like I said earlier, they've only played Florida, LSU, and Alabama in the conference. So, thoughts on this game, Jen?
Nah.
No. Well, I have been following this game, like I've said several times, before, for several weeks now, because of listening to the Sports Animal out of Knoxville, and a lot of the talk has been coming from them that the Kentucky fans have been looking forward to this game all year to get back, because the series have been so one-sided, dominated, and Kentucky had high hopes to challenge Georgia in the East and everything as the year started. But, obviously Will Levis had a foot injury, was out a week against South Carolina, and they ended up losing that game, which I think was unexpected. They expected to have won that game, maybe only have the one loss to Ole Miss. But with 2 conference losses, they're 2 games behind Tennessee and Georgia now. So, it's not really a lot of talking a Kentucky fan can be doing right now, but apparently that's what they wanted. And I think the people in Knoxville are ready for them this week. So, and Kentucky really struggles offensively. I know the show was talking yesterday about if you expected Tennessee to get 30 points automatically, even against Kentucky's defense, how is Kentucky going to generate 30 points of offense? And that's really a huge question from them. For Kentucky, can they generate enough offense to hit the buzzsaw, to stand up to the buzzsaw that's Tennessee? I mean, with Tennessee's offensive production, every game that's at least 30 points.
Yeah.
And if you're struggling offensively, I mean, if you look at Kentucky's numbers, the stats for the quarterback are not bad. They just don't score touchdowns. The running game has gotten better with Rodriguez returning. And that's the question, Jen. What do you do if you're a team that can't seem to generate enough offense to play against in a game this week? How do you pull out a win like that?
Tell the defense to do everything they can, get that ball, and plant the quarterback.
Yep.
just do whatever they can to get the ball to make up for the weaker link.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Okay. Any other thoughts for this game?
Nope.
Well, everybody have to turn in next week, because I'll have another special guest next week, and we will definitely preview that Tennessee Georgia game. I still don't know who I'm picking yet. And because I said this last week, I'm sold on Tennessee. I'm sold on Tennessee for one big reason: their head coach. I've seen Heupel at UCF. I've seen him so far in Knoxville. Even though they made a bowl game last year, and they struggled. They had their issues on defense, but in the second year, look where he's got them. And he doesn't panic. That's the one thing. There's only been one. Him and Kirby Smart don't panic. They're calm. They know what they're doing, and they've been that way from day one. Their coaches do. The only time I've had a problem with Kirby Smart was in the SEC championship a few years ago, when they had the lead and did that fake punt at midfield thing. You remember that one? That was the one time that I had an issue with Kirby Smart's play calling. So but that's everybody makes a mistake. Once in a while is not a big deal, and you can overcome it. I don't not everybody can be Les Miles going for every fourth down that they come across and actually convert. So, but that'll be next week. We'll definitely spend some time previewing that one and having some fun on that one.
Yep. Sorry.
No problem. No problem.
My wife came in the room. She was talking to me. I was listening, but I couldn't respond to both.
No, I know. You chose wisely, as Mrs. would say. You chose the wise decision. So
not always.
But you remember that one time in the SEC championship game a couple years ago with where Kirby Smart did the fake punt. They had the lead, did the fake punt.
Oh, that was good.
That's the only time I can remember questioning Kirby Smart.
Yeah.
And but it's one of those. It's kind of like Spurrier would,
Yeah.
You look before and after. He's been good, and forgive him every once in a while. So, all right, the next game is Ole Miss at Texas A&M. We're really not going to talk about the game, but I will say there's some break. A&M is 3-4, and you remember, they were supposed to challenge Alabama in the West. They beat Alabama last year. They were going to. They were. Some people were picking them to win the West this year. Did you realize that?
Yeah, but it's like they got too much to work on in order to get that. Yeah, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, it's gotten worse. You want to hear how bad it's gotten?
I will go ahead because I think I've seen actually they were talking about it on ESPN.
Yeah, well, they've had not only 3-4 weak offense, they've had 3 offensive linemen that are now out for the season due to injuries.
Yeah,
2 with knee injuries. Yeah, 2 with knee injuries, and one with an ankle injury.
Yeah, because they were having like a what's it called, the injury report, and they were they heavily talked about them because they had the most injuries of people being out. And I was like, people are getting hurt a lot this year.
Yeah, and Small Town Republic makes a great point right there. I agreed with this wholeheartedly. Is that they going in didn't feel like they'd have the quarterback played to win the West this year.
Yeah, they don't.
They had I don't remember the starter transferred elsewhere from last year that finished the season for them. They've had the LSU quarterback, the Johnson kid, come in who's gotten hurt now, who had been a starter for a bit. So there's been a lot of up and down stuff for them right now, and like he says, has a lot of drama in general right now.
Yeah, well, their starter transferred because they told him they were bringing in another guy, and he was going to be the secondary.
Yeah,
and so he was like, "All right, F it," and then he,
yeah, he earned the job last year.
But unfortunately, that's football, and that's what organizations do. They sometimes they screw guys over.
Well, at least he had the ability to transfer.
Yeah, not everybody does.
Well, and I tell you what, I guess I got to be careful on a show like this to say what I really think, because as a Gator fan, I remember Jimbo from his years over in Tallahassee at Florida State, and not surprised with the way the program's run. I mean, it's really snake oil salesman, and there were the talk that when Bobby Bowden retired, he was kind of forced out because Jimbo threatened to go elsewhere and not wait around his turn, because Bobby wouldn't retire, and so that ended up ending Bobby's career with that.
Yeah.
But real quickly, they also had 3 players that got an alleged locker room incident after a recent game.
I saw that.
The 22 signee class, they're suspended indefinitely.
Oh.
So yeah, exactly. I mean, that's how bad. Like Small Time Republic said, it's.
I don't know if it should be an indefinitely thing. Like it wasn't that.
Well, wait, I got some other breaking news. I got some other sudden breaking news.
What's that?
Okay, Texas A&M mascot Revelate suspended indefinitely. We got another suspension.
What do you do?
The Texas A&M football team is now 3-4 in the season and 1-3 in SEC play. News about the program seems to be getting worse, and this is on MSN from SB Nation. We may reach a new low this morning. According to sources, Aggie mascot Reveille 10 has been suspended indefinitely following a violation of team rules. While unconfirmed, the rumor is that Miss Rev urinated on the floor of head coach Jimbo Fisher's office.
Awesome. Good.
Rev knows she made the mistake, but we're working through it. She's a good girl, Fisher said. We just have to execute better. She's got to go outside better, and we got to coach her better.
That's funny.
I thought you'd get a kick out of that one, but it's like, oh, have a little bit of levity here. Oh my gosh! And no, not quite that bad, CJ. I won't post that up here, but I see what you said. Yeah. So, with that and a little bit of humor, brings us to the important part of the night: Florida, Georgia. I'll go through some of the stats here, and I'll stop. And you know, that's why I brought Jen on tonight. I'm a Florida Gator fan. He's a diehard Georgia Bulldog fan. I'm 52 years old. He's not even nearly that old. And I'm curious I want to have a conversation from two different angles, two different sets of eyes, you know, of rivals, you know, to see what we agree on, and see how we look at them similarly and differently in that rivalry. I gotta share this. The dog was bought and paid for.
Ain't nobody care what Nick Saban says.
But I love it. We get a lot of fun out of that. So with that, Jen, all right. Obviously, Georgia leads the series overall 53-44. And okay, would y'all
what y'all do in y'all's free time, y'all can do.
Leave it in Fortnite. But yeah, Georgia leads the series 53-44 and 2 ties. The largest margin of victory for Georgia was 75-0 back in 1942. The longest winning streak for Georgia was 7 games from 1941 to 1948. See, that surprised me because as a kid in the 70s and 80s, it felt like Georgia won every year. But the largest margin for Florida was a 47-7 win in 1996. And let's see. Yes, I will mention that game again a little bit later. 47-7 in 1996. The longest streak for the Gators was 7 back in 1990 to 1996, which was the starting years of the head ball coach Steve Spurrier. Surprisingly, for as well as Georgia has done in recent years overall, the last 8 games have been split 4-4. UF is 4-3 this year with wins over Utah, South Florida, Eastern Washington, and Missouri, but losses to Kentucky, Tennessee, and LSU. While Georgia is 7-0 with wins over Oregon, Samford, South Carolina, Kent State, Missouri, Auburn, and Vandy. Yeah. Okay, before I start going into some detail of the past, Jen, how do you view this series as a rivalry between Georgia and Florida? Because I know you're younger than me, and I'm curious to see how you, as a younger Georgia fan, views this rivalry compared to maybe an older Georgia fan.
Well, Georgia, that's some great thing with the SEC is there's different, each rivalry is just different from other ones because of just the long history. And the longest, rivalries is Georgia, Florida, because, they're, the 2 states are connected. And, then you got some people view Georgia, Tennessee, or Georgia, Auburn, Georgia. They don't really look at Georgia, Alabama, but Georgia, Florida. It's just that long history because just the it's like, oh, my state's better than your state, kind of because they're connected, but
well, also to the other point with where it's located, a neutral site in Jacksonville, it's right on the border.
Yeah. and which I always forget because I don't know why. Oh, I always thought the university was somewhere closer to middle of Florida, and then I sit there and I'm like, oh, that's just right up there. Whereas, I forget the guy's name. He goes, he was a comedian, but he was also like a sports announcer, and he said on live TV, he goes, see, Florida, their university's up in the quote unquote nutsack of the United States, and I busted out laughing. I was like, he was allowed to say that, and I'm sure he got scolded on. And I was like, but technically he's not wrong. It's like because it is right there.
Oh man.
But yeah, it's a good rivalry, and it's got fans on both sides that still respect each other's rivalry, but still have respect for each other instead of just some organizations they got some violent fans, but it's a mutual rivalry, but it's like it's still fun at the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the series dates back to the start was first game was actually played in Jacksonville, Florida, back on November 6, 1915, where Georgia won 37-0. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Not surprised. So, but yeah, it's really interesting. It's been a series of ebbs and flows. One team wins a lot for a while, the other wins for a while. I'm really shocked. At one point back in the 70s, 80s, before probably the early 80s, this was much more in Georgia's favor. It wasn't until Spurrier came and the reversal of fortune, with Gators winning more than Georgia over the years, that actually balanced this number out before. Because I remember back then it was so much in Georgia's favor. So,
yeah.
Well, got a few other things about the history of this site, this series. You want to listen to some more?
Yeah. Well, all right. Hold on. Check the private chat here.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, LOL. I love that. That was definitely good there with that. So, yeah, I got you. Okay. Yep. Okay. Yep. I get. Let's see.
But
We'll do some things real quick. So,
yeah. Sorry.
I know. Well, if you got to go,
But yeah, just here's the next couple.
Just tell me about. Yeah, just finish up with what you want to say about the series, what you think, and we'll go from there.
Well, you're talking about this particular game or just
this series? Yeah, this series.
Yeah. It's just an enjoyable energy to watch the game, even if one team blows out the other. It's still just enjoyable game to have on TV, and and it's one of those games that people just have football cookouts and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
That game's guaranteed to be on the TV, even if it's just ends up being a boring game. It's still on the TV, and people are still gonna watch it, regardless of who's gonna win.
Absolutely.
But yeah, like I obviously believe Georgia's gonna win, and that I say that as a fan and just by observation because of how strong Georgia's defense is.
Mm-hmm.
But all around, it should just be a still enjoyable game.
Yeah, absolutely. I do and even though Florida's had its troubles, and I'll get into that a little bit later. It says, anytime in a rivalry game, you don't know what's going to happen. I'll quickly say here, like one of the notes that I had of memories of this game was in 1985. Florida went on the road, beat Auburn, became ranked number one for the first time ever. First time ever, Florida was ranked number one. Comes in the very next week in Jacksonville. Not only loses, but Georgia beat them 24-3. I mean, that's a pretty good butt whooping for the team that just got ranked number one.
Yeah.
So
especially back then.
Yes, exactly. And I tell you, and I'll share this with you real quickly too, is that the memories of Vince Dooley, all respect and honor to him, especially on news of his passing. But I tell you what, he was a classy gentleman, but he also knew how to get under Gator fans' skin very well. You thought the
Yeah.
old ball coach could do it? Vince Dooley would make you think he had an 0-10 team walking in that's about to get trounced. He always talked down his team so much, and then he'd come out and beat the crap out of you. It really,
Yep.
it was frustrating because you're like, why are you complaining about your team? You're fifth ranked in the nation, and it's so funny. But he had that way of getting to people like that, and that was quite a funny thing with him over the years. So,
Mm-hmm.
it. But in all seriousness, love and respect to him for what he did for college football,
Yeah.
and how he was an ambassador to the University of Georgia. And even as a Gator fan, you had to give him some respect and because of the way he handled himself with class and dignity. And he just beat you on the field, and that you have to respect that. Um, so all credit to him and his family, and to the university. So tomorrow's game will take on probably more of a different air. Now I could imagine what RV City's like um, now with the Georgia fans there.
Yeah.
Um, so one thing is, let me ask you one last thing. Do you did you ever have you ever been in Jacksonville during a Florida Georgia game to actually see the environment or what the RV City
Hey,
was?
uh, sorry, I hate doing this. I have
Yep.
to go.
Yep. Okay.
My
Yep.
son's
Yep. I
waking up.
got you. Well,
All
Jen,
right.
thanks for being here
Yep.
tonight. Bro.
Later, man.
Appreciate it. Yep. Take
Later.
care, man. All right. Well, hey, we're going to continue the talk here, and like I said, our deep sympathies and condolences to the Georgia fans out there and the family. That's sad news to have tonight on the eve before a big rivalry game. But it helps put things in perspective that we're at the end of the day we're only talking about a game, not real life and death stuff. And may his name be honored going forward and held up with class. Because I tell you, as a kid, he really frustrated my Gator teams over the year, and he was one heck of a coach and a great representative for the university. So, since I'm the old guy, going back to the 70s, some of the interesting things with this history of this series, um, and the game had been played in Jacksonville, Florida, in a neutral site setting every year since 1933, until the city was granted the rights to the NFL Jacksonville Jaguars. What happened then was they had to renovate the stadium at that point, modernize it for the time to accommodate an NFL team. So the game moved to home and home during 1994 and 1995. They 94 being in Gainesville and 95 being in Georgia. I actually went to the 1994 game in Gainesville, which was a monsoon swampy game. It really was a swamp that night, and it was actually quite an odd night. It was the week after the Auburn game, and the folks that I was with that got me the tickets had their parking place, and as we were walking, there was obviously a student house. The students rent houses down there and stuff, but you saw cars parked everywhere on the street, everything else, except for this 1 yard. So it was raining so bad that people had to use the restroom, so we were still a ways from the stadium. They went in and used the bathroom, and we talked to the students there, and we're like, hey, y'all should be renting out your property. Well, they said, well, it's against the lease agreement. They found out the previous week when Auburn was in town, and the owner came by and had all the vehicles towed. That's why you didn't see cars on the yard that day. So I don't blame them for that. So interesting story with that. Those are the 2 years home and home. And then in 95, Florida beat the one going away up in Georgia. The series actually has been marked with all kinds of dramatic endings over the years. I wish I could figure out a way to do things where I could play clips of videos the way I want to do it, because 1980 was the bad year. I was sitting there. Georgia finally was going to lose to Florida. Georgia had the ball at their own 8-yard line with less than a minute left. And this is the day and age before complicated passing offenses and routes and stuff. Well, third down and probably about 8 or 9, Buck Bellew, the quarterback, who often didn't throw that much, drops back, scrambles around, gets away from the Gators in the end zone, hits a running Lindsey Scott crossing the field. Lindsey Scott runs. A Gator linebacker slips. And then it's the call of all calls, the Run Lindsey Run call by the great Georgia announcer. It just was amazing. The Run Lindsey Run all the way down the field. It just, oh man, talk about a play to break your heart as a kid. That Larry Munson was the announcer on the call, famous for that and famous for many other great calls. The hobnail boot call against Tennessee. The man was a classic announcer. And but the point was 1980 broke my heart. But in the end, that is also the play that enabled Georgia to keep moving on, to stay undefeated, to win its first national championship under Coach Vince Dooley in 1980. That was a bad memory that I had of the game, along with the 1985 butt weapon they put on the Gators. Another Vince Dooley work. Another one Vince Dooley did, 1981. Florida had the lead at the end. Final drive, Georgia gets a touchdown, wins 26-21, which became the final score 2 years in a row. So, Georgia had the Gators number for so long. It was very frustrating as a Gator fan. Then fortunes changed when the head ball coach, old Steve Spurrier himself, returned home and took over in 1990. And it went crazy from there, with the Gators balancing the series overall at that point. Let's see. 1993. Yeah, 1993 was the timeout game. It's a game that I attended. It was another monsoon wet game and everything else. I was in the north end zone, looked down the field, and with 5 seconds left, Georgia was in the 10-yard line trying to tie up the game, down 33-26, and the ball snapped. But I saw it. I knew it, because the Georgia fans were not happy. They were booing off. But you could see the Gator player, the cornerback, called timeout, and the referee had started the motion, blowing it to stop the play, and negated the touchdown that had happened. What's funny then was Georgia got another play, threw a pass to the corner end zone. Gators got called for pass interference. So they got one more play, and Georgia failed on that play from the 2-yard line, threw it behind the receiver, and Florida won that game. So that's a good one in Florida's case. That's known as the timeout game. Also, one game that I mentioned also earlier was the 1996 game, where Florida, the largest margin Florida's ever beaten Georgia by 47-7. That was my first game with Mrs. Dadman at a game like that. Woohoo! And we were there. We wore shorts. At least I wore shorts and a T-shirt. I think she had jeans. We were there. Nice hot Florida day. And then all of a sudden, right before halftime, monsoon front blows through. Boom, winds up to 40 miles an hour and all this stuff. Cold, dark, October night. And we went from there when we were cold and freezing. From hot to cold and freezing. That was the most dramatic temperature change I've ever experienced in one game. So those are just some of the games that, we've had over the years, and the memories that I've had of the games. Obviously, what's, I think, interesting looking at this is that most of my memories have really been from the years where Florida struggled, Georgia won, up until the point where Florida started winning more of the games. I still enjoy the Tim Tebow years and things like that, but for, maybe it was winning so much back then that kind of changed it a little bit. But, that's what makes college football, I think, really, really great is just memories and things like that and sharing it with people. And like she said, yes, she was freezing. I was happy when Florida won because Dadman was a happy camper. Yes, that's always a good thing when Dadman's a happy camper. So that's what's awesome. But, like I said, this is the favorite series of mine. It's one that I really enjoy. I love. I look forward to each year. It's up there to me along with the Tennessee, even the Florida State rivalries. But this really is one that means a lot. But I do think it's changing over the years. Some of you SEC people that follow the conference may know a lot about the history about this game because was formerly the world's largest outdoor cocktail party, which the universities decided they didn't like the meaning of that. But one thing it was known for is its atmosphere. It's a whole week party with what they called RV City, and people just go take their RVs down there, spread out all around the stadium, in controlled areas. But, it was a big thing. You'd see flags flying next to the bridge and this, that, all kinds of stuff. Well, and sadly, the last time I've seen it, pictures of it, was that it's now confined to a very small area. It's not as big or widespread with the RVs like it used to be. And, it broke my heart to see it because before it was like people everywhere. Now it's like they're hidden under bridges and stuff. So I don't know if you're familiar with the series and what the RV City, maybe you can relate to it because it made me finally, for once, one of the biggest debates of this series has been being a neutral site game. Both teams lose a home game every other year because of this. And the question that's been posed for so many times, because Georgia fans have considered it being a competitive balance for Florida, but it's not really. It depends on who wins. But big question is, should the game go back to being a permanent home-and-home series? It's been played in Jacksonville every year since 1933, except for the 2 years I mentioned. And what I saw broke my heart because I don't think, it just seemed like it used to be so much bigger than what it is now. And that really is what made this event special in events downtown. And it's almost like the NFL pressures of the city is squeezing out the college enjoyment, the college atmosphere. And I don't know. I'm for once seriously thinking maybe it is time to take this series home and home again. I don't like to think that, but hey, time does move on. So with that, folks, I appreciate everybody here. We still got 7 around watching. Make sure you follow us on the Twitch side. Subscribe and like over on the YouTube side. And we really appreciate your support tonight, and especially for you guys here in the chat. And, like I said, please keep asking questions. If you got questions, throw them in the chat. We've had some good comments tonight. If you have different perspectives, let me see what they are. If you have something else to say that maybe I haven't thought about, throw a Nick Saban joke in. That was great earlier. I love the Nick Saban joke. That was, yes, thank you, Small Time Republic, for that Nick Saban joke. I wish I could play the video of him having a Spurrier tantrum on the sideline. But anyway, and yeah, what the missus said, it was sad looking at. And the traditions that we grew up with that made the game great and special are being destroyed. And I hate to say blame it on profit and greed and everything else. I don't want to do that. But it's just, in the day and age of everybody having a friggin' RV, I would expect a lot more RVs down there. But I seem to recall talk years ago that they were going to be limiting how many. It's coming to fruition apparently. And I remember the Red River Shootout with Texas and Oklahoma with their huge tied in with the state fair and everything there. The Florida-Georgia game used to be tied in with the Jacksonville fair also, but we can't have that because the NFL team is spreading, all out around there, and it was never looked on as a classy thing having a fair. It just, like I said, yeah, it's true. It's true. But hey, as long as we still have our teams in our football, we'll take it. It's just sad to see the traditions break. It's like the way this addiction to playing flashing lights and loud pumped in music instead of letting the bands play like it used to be. But then again, I'm an old fuddy duddy. But give me a band any day over a system. So with that said, with our picks that we do each week with everybody else. Last week, Esh Singh, let me take this comment here real quick. I think this is important, O.C. Dobbins. Yes, you know what? That would be an awesome thing. Go back to Birmingham. Guess what? Maybe the SEC championship one year could be in Birmingham for once. Why does it always have to be in Atlanta and the big cities? Because you know what? Before we had Atlanta and everything else, Birmingham was the conference home and what kept the conference going. Even if you did it every 5 years or something, just something to try to bring back some of the tradition, there. But, because those games in those different locations do make a difference. I will tell you, going to the game in '94 in the Swamp, it was not Florida, Georgia, like in the Gator Bowl. It just wasn't. It couldn't be. It's a different location, different, it was just all different. It wasn't 50-50, the stands, it wasn't, but it was a temporary necessity at the time to get to a better position. But yeah, I think that's great. OC, just anything they can do to bring back some of these other traditions, that have gone away. But, we shall see. The great Esh won last week on his system of dice rolling. I'm not going to tell you what he did and how to do it. You've got to go back and look at last week's video. Like I had said earlier, even if you don't listen to all the other pre-shuff stuff, listen to his methodology in his own words. It is really incredible what he did to come up with his picks and went 4-1 with me at 5-2. So overall, I ended up 56-17. And the guests are at 49-24, a 7-game difference. So we shall see what Jen's picks are this week, coming up right now, and see where he goes. In the Arkansas at Auburn game, Jen takes Arkansas, and I agree with him. But I will say, I started having some second thoughts about this. We're looking at how Auburn's offense came out last week. Arkansas still kind of not quite sure what to expect from them from one week to the other. I could see Auburn. I can see Auburn pulling this game out, at home. I really can. It would be, I think, a feat. And I think, like you said earlier, that it small town Republic. I know it's really easy to get down on your team because I know I am on mine to a good degree right now. But if they can play like they did last week against Ole Miss, they might have a shot with Arkansas. So it's that's why you always have to play the game and see what happens. So have some faith, Auburn fans, maybe. Oh. So then we got South Carolina and Missouri. Jen takes South Carolina. I do too. Missouri is just bland. South Carolina is bland, but a little bit better of bland. I still don't know what to do as Spencer Rattler as a quarterback after what he had done at Oklahoma. But, South Carolina at home, Missouri is just not a good football team. That should be a pretty easy win for South Carolina, I would think. So then takes us to Kentucky at Tennessee, which Jen takes Tennessee. And I will take Kentucky. No, just kidding you, Vol fans. I just had to see your reaction. But, yeah, Tennessee at home, I think. Kentucky's defense might keep them in the game for a while, but I just don't see the firepower of Kentucky's offense being able to do anything significant against to stay up with Tennessee. Even if they do slow Tennessee down for a while, it'll be a matter of time before Tennessee rolls. But hey, let's hope for another Squirrel White sighting this week. How about that? Yeah, I love Squirrel White for Heisman. So, and Arkansas, South Carolina, 10, Mississippi, Flow Beep. Oh, geez. That's interesting. What's the beep for? Arkansas, South Carolina. Yeah. Okay. Well, cool. So then we go to the Ole Miss Texas A&M game. Jen takes A&M. I take Ole Miss. Even though Ole Miss has been kind of struggling against the better teams, A&M has even more struggles on offense. They've lost the game at home, and I think Ole Miss will have enough offense to outscore A&M at this point, I think. But you never know. Ole Miss also went and laid an egg at LSU. You never know. So, how that goes. Which leads us to the big game of the week, the last game of them all. The big game of the week, the one that I love the most, Florida, Georgia, at neutral site Jacksonville. And, of course, Jen's going to take Georgia. I wanted to say he took Florida, but nobody believed that anyway. But, Jen takes Georgia. There's every reason to take Georgia. If you want to take Georgia in this game, Georgia's really the big dog in the East. Until somebody beats them, it's really hard to go against Georgia. You might want to. They've had some struggles this year at Samford. They only scored 33 points at home. Kent State gave them fits. Missouri almost beat them a few weeks ago in Missouri. Had to lead till the last 4 minutes of the game when Georgia finally took the lead and scored most of its points in the fourth quarter. So, all the reasons in the world to take Georgia in this game. Florida, I love Florida. Oh my gosh. What can I say about them? And on this game, I'm going to take Georgia. I just don't trust the Gators. I don't trust the coaching. And the quarterback play has been spotty. And whose fault that is, I don't know. Don't want to come down hard and blame kids playing a game and stuff like this. But the fact is, the quarterback play from Gainesville has been very up and down this year. They score 33 points at Tennessee, nearly win a game, throw for over 400 yards, then go home and play Missouri and throw for 66 yards. I don't know. But some of that also, I think, comes back to coaching. And that's my biggest concern with this Gator team. Whereas I've seen Georgia and Tennessee hire new coaches and who learn quickly and don't have a meltdown first year, although the Florida first year is not yet a meltdown. But these Georgia and Tennessee got much better in the second year. They were not too bad in their first year. And having this kind of inconsistency in terms of game calling, offensive play calling, offensive production, at some point I'm leaning to blaming the coaching staff. Of course, I've been called out by some of my family for being impatient and give the guy time. But you know what? I'm not one that says you have to wait 5 years and build it from the ground up anymore. Heck, you look at these NFL teams, build to the draft. I mean, they keep saying in Jacksonville they're going to get better, but look at the Jaguars. But anyway, enough on that one. But still, I take Georgia in this game. I would love to be surprised. I'd love to see Florida give them a game. I'd love to see Florida win the game just to ruin Georgia's year. That's what makes rivalries beautiful. But, good luck to whoever wins that one. Georgia has a lot going. But Georgia's also got a hard week after this, the next week, at home at Tennessee. And we will definitely talk more about that Tennessee game next week because I believe that's going to be the big game of the week as we've got. And then Florida. about yeah. This year it is, but you never know. Who knows if they're able to pull off the win with this? But that is important at Florida. And then you got to play the game. Any of these rivalries, who knows what's going to happen. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap up tonight. Thank you for everybody that's been here through the chat, that have listened in. I hope we've had some fun. I hope we've talked some good stuff and you've enjoyed it. Thank you for spending your time, whether it's been the whole show, part of the show, lurking. Thank you for being here tonight. It means a lot. And, like I said, your support means a lot, and I appreciate it. So our show next week will be Thursday night at 8 p.m., back to our normal time. And please bear with me with the time changes on some of these, because we've had to work days, nights, and times to accommodate some of the guests that we've had on. And it, normally you like consistency, but I kind of scheduled it with certain guests in mind, and I really wanted a guest so y'all could hear them. And you're welcome, O.C. Dobbins. Your feedback has been amazing too, and appreciate you and the rest of the people that are in here. And share with your friends if you like what you hear. We got a few more weeks of football coming up, so we'll do that. Yes, Ash beat me, but you've got to go see how he did it. Go watch the video and stuff and share it. He really did, really is great. So I hope to see you later, Mark. And Wade, thank you for the compliments. Glad you're here. You guys have got a great season coming up. I mean, I'm telling you, and then the future looks good. And I'll say hi and bye to the missus and CJ, of course. And thanks to our Small Town Republic. Loved having you in here. Loved the Auburn talk. Thank you, man. Carol just swung through too. And hopefully I didn't miss anybody. But thank you all for being here. It really, like I said, does mean a lot to have your support. And especially the feedback. If y'all have questions, throw it in, or if you have anything to throw in, please let me know. And hopefully that we'll do a lot. We'll try to get bigger and better even next year. So, but this year's a start. And good night, everybody. My friend, we'll look for tweet later. My friend Wade has got a stream coming up on Tuesday. It's a big stream for him. But like I said, next Thursday night at 8 p.m., and we'll have periodic fortnights during the week. And Sunday at some point, I'll have a recap show for this week's action, revealing the pick winners and the updated poll standings and conference standings. So be on the lookout for that. Usually, I think on the Sunday night recap show, I think I'm selling around 7 p.m. Eastern. So look for that then. But to find out all the latest, look at us on Twitter at Dadman Walking 55. As I said, if you watch on Twitch, or if you have not been over to Twitch, go over there and leave a follow at Dadman Walking 55. And the same if you're on Twitch, if you go over to the YouTube side, leave a subscription and a like to the video, especially the subscriptions. If we can get to 100, I guess we get a customized URL that everybody likes so much, and it's supposed to make things easier. I don't understand it, but people tell me it's good. So if we can get to 100 on the YouTube side, it's even more awesome. But as I said before, to find out the latest, go to the Twitter. That's where you'll see the latest updates on when we go live or what we have going on. And with that note, I appreciate it again. Cannot say it enough. Thank you all for being here. It's a wonderful stream. Go Gators. We'll have fun this weekend. The world's largest outdoor cocktail party, enunciation. So that's important. So anyway, good luck, guys. Have a great rest of your weekend and have a lot of fun, and y'all take care. Until then, we'll see you next time. Bye.